He's also a finance expert. What I have forgotten, Lillian, you will add, and I want to inform your audience that you are an economist. You're also a CPK. Also, Jonathan Omolo is a CPK. He loves strategy and many other things that relate to finance. I am your host, Richard J. Magoma. I am very delighted to be with you. To start us off, briefly, what is financial reporting, Lillian? We would be interested. People like saying that HR people don't like issues to do with finance. They bring very blotted. We want to understand what is finance reporting.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, we can. We can hear you.
Okay. So financial reporting, most people are not able to tell the difference between financial reporting and accounting. So briefly, reporting is part, accounting forms part of reporting. Reporting is majorly in layman's language. When you look at a newspaper, for example, banks usually see they have put out their financials, which tells you where they stand. So majorly reporting revolves around that. And also with it, there's also statistics. So in layman's language or in simple terms, that is what is reporting.
Thank you very much. Mr. Omolo, you are a payroll. What are the components of a payroll? Some of us do not know really what are the components. Give us a background. When a person decides, an IT person who has not done accounting or finance, what do they have to consider so that they can come up with a payroll? What are the components, the fundamental components of a payroll?
Payroll system generally is about how you manage remuneration to the workforce. The way when you come from recruitment, someone works throughout a particular period, and then how you manage that remuneration in a way that everyone is going home happy. The government has their own dues, the employee has his own dues, and every other deduction is well taken care of. So each and every person has his own interests. Like the government will want their own percentages. Like Mr. Richard, I know you will be falling in the bracket of 35%. So you will be pinched to that extent. So how you manage these things so that everyone goes home happy and make it automated so that there's proper continuity. So in a nutshell, it's that way.
Very good. That is a very good start. That's a very good definition. Now, when the question goes to you, Jonathan Omolo, I want to sit down, come up with a payroll that has international ramification. What do I need to take into consideration? Because the local payroll and the international payroll differ in a particular deal. So when I want to come up with an international payroll, probably I'm managing a transnational organization or a multinational. What do I need to take into consideration so that I can be able to come up with a payroll that satisfies all the requirements?
Okay, by and large, ideally, if no one was being taxed like in some other countries, then the gross will form the net. Or if there is no deduction, the gross will form the net, and everyone will be every country will be similar. But in the event that now every country is different in terms of taxation and the kind of statutory deductions, then you find that you need to first of all understand every tax jurisdiction, whatever is required of each and every country, because and there are different terminologies. Because if you go to Tanzania, there are different levies from the levies that are in Kenya, and they are at different percentages. So ideally, you need to take each and every jurisdiction on its own and understand the taxation. You understand the percentages, you understand the deadlines that are involved, so that at the end of the day, the most serious part of the country, that is the government or the KRA, the Revenue Authority, is happy, and you will be happy. So it starts from there. Then secondly, there are also laws that are involved, like the labor laws. So like in Kenya, you cannot remit money to an employee that is less than a third of the gross. So you need to understand all other laws that go by the kind of earnings that someone has, so that you by and large get to be within the confines of the laws in the country. So that is first thing you must consider. Secondly, they are allowables, like after doing the taxation, there are things that are allowed that someone can consider doing with his own revenue. He can be able to plan his revenue in such a way that he maximizes the revenue. Like if you want to do some tax planning, there are reliefs that are concerned. There are items that can be allowed against your taxable income in such a way that at the end of the day, you can be able to you pay as less tax as possible. So if you can encompass everything, so that it's not, you don't really just focus on the normal deductions only, but you take care of everything and everyone is happy. So generally, it's something like that.
Very good. Lillian, Jonathan Omolo has mentioned the issue of taxation. Now, if I want to come up with a payroll system, do I have to travel, for example, to Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, so that I can be able to collect information about taxation so that I can come up with it? What do I do? What if somebody wants to come up with a payroll that has got international dimensions to it?
Okay. If you want to come up with a global payroll, to be on the safe side, it will be good to involve experts, maybe consider global payroll partners, because also it depends with the number of countries that you're covering. For example, if you're in East Africa and you're covering Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, probably that will be easy. You can centralize that, and it will be easier to collect information on that. However, if it's covering a large area, maybe Africa, out of Africa, it will be better to consider probably a third-party provider to help you with gathering that information. And as you do that, it will be also good to come up with a global payroll strategy on whether you're going to involve different players in the different countries that you want service to be provided in. So when you're considering that, you should also think of how you're going to centralize data from the different providers. And if you decide to get one provider to do the centralization of the payroll, I think that will be better, because you'll find they are well versed with taxation issues in different countries. And as you do that, it would also be helpful to have your own, as a company, your own person who also deals with taxations, especially that relates to payrolls, someone who is maybe widely traveled and has worked in different places, so that as you rely on third-party providers, you also have someone who can cross-check on whatever is being provided, so that you're on the safe side. So to just cut it short, I think the world has evolved. There's no point of going around studying all that, and it keeps changing. It's better to involve experts in that.
Thank you, Lillian. You've ably mentioned the issue of providers, and this brings the question of vendor management. How do you choose a vendor, especially when you are in Kenya and you want to come out with a payroll and you're going to another country probably to look for vendors? What are some of the considerations that you got to take into account so that you can be able to come up with vendors who will assist you in getting a world-class payroll?
Okay, there are so many considerations to make. So one of them will be, of course, pricing. You'll check whether your budget is in line with what is being provided. The other major thing will be support that is provided by the vendor. You'll want to check counter check on the support that they'll provide to you after you have onboarded them. When the system is not working, when the system has crashed, so many things come up with anything that is system related. How are they going to support you? Things like, are you going to get a dedicated maybe manager? Is there online help center for you when things happen? What are some of the training programs, onboarding programs and ongoing trainings that the vendor will offer you? Also, you'll want to check the coverage, like the past, some of the customers that they're working with, and check the coverage of these particular customers, whether ones that are almost similar to yours, and also you can also reach out to them and to find out how they find the service. I think also the other thing you'll want to check is on, there's also how they are going to deal with things like data privacy. So those are some of the things you'd want to check with.
Thank you, Lillian. Nelima, you've brought out the concept of data protection. Jonathan, some countries have not enacted the Data Protection Act. How do you safeguard people's data when we know some countries? I know Kenya has done it. I know Uganda has done it. How now do you protect people's data in jurisdictions where we do not have data protection?
Data protection is very key in such a way that it compromises on your privacy and makes you vulnerable to certain ingenious ways that people may employ. So this is very important, and if you are engaging a vendor, then this is one thing you need to really discuss about, because you need to ensure that you are safe, your data is safe. We've heard of the stories about the Chinese trying to hack the government's platforms relating to loans and stuff, and this makes it, if they were able to do it, then they are able to do some other things. Another thing is you find the stories of someone who was able to pay himself as an MP, and is just a commoner in Narok, and he gets home and creates a an account as a member of parliament. So this is very important, and this is something that must come from your side, from the side of engaging a vendor. You have to discuss through it, and you have to ensure that your data is safe and your data is secure, and the vendor must ensure that this happens, because why should you compromise on its price? You get cheap but lose on some things that are critical to your company. So it's something that has to be deliberate, and you have to engage properly with the vendor so that that happens. Because even if it is not a common practice within the country or the country where the vendor is offering you the service, but for you need to ensure that this happens so that you are safe. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Lillian, even within the same organization, there is need to protect people's data. Are there mechanisms within a payroll system that can protect data that one can be able to put in place so that data is protected?
Yeah, there are so many measures that a company can employ. Some of them are access rights, ensuring that whoever is privy or can view employees' data are only those that have been authorized. And it's also good to have privacy consents that are signed by those that have access to such data. Also, it will be good with new developments to also involve or have a department or someone who handles data privacy issues, who can also keep the company up to date on the happenings. Also, the other thing will be maybe consent. When you're onboarding employees, it's also good to have whatever is critical, to have the employees consent on what can be shared and what cannot be shared, so that to protect the company, and also to have strong, especially for the cloud-based systems, it's good to have strong security systems in place to ensure that you do not have cases of breaches. And also, additionally, you could have a backup or a data breach response plan in advance, so that in case of anything, you already have a plan in place on how you're going to act.
Very good. Jonathan, briefly talk about backup, because it's very important. Data can be lost. Briefly talk about it. If I want to secure my data, what do I have to look at so that I can be sure that my data is safeguarded from attacks, from other things that can be able to ruin the payroll?
Ideally, payroll generally, maybe if I talk about the payroll as a continuous process, generally when you employ someone, until he leaves, you'll be paying him. And until you deliberately change the remuneration, you'll be paying him the same amount of money. So you have to ensure that the getting to key in the data is secured, and deleting of that data is also secured, so that whatever gets in is properly controlled, and whatever is deleted or is deactivated is also properly controlled, in such a way that you will not have ghost workers in the payroll. there is proper continuity. If you are paying 502 last month and you are going to pay, you add 2-3 people, and then and one leaves, then you are going to pay 503, and there is proper reconciliation of the same. So there is a need for proper backup, and this backup also comes with taxes, because like for each and every period, there is a period of time when it will be audited by the revenue authorities, and when they want to get access to the data, they would like to see, or to maybe deep dive in whatever happened. So it's important for you. It's also important for your engagements with the revenue authorities. So backup is key. You find that you are in the season of filing our taxes for the previous periods, and you consider that you need to give the employee P9s, and there are some that may not be interested in the filing, and they will not have enough information. But you have come across employees that want P9s for 2016 and 2015, because they are now getting better salaries, and they want to take loans, and they want to do other activities, and they want to engage in getting the tax compliance certificates, but they have to file their returns. So if you don't have your data, then maybe, let me say, you are changing from one system to the other. If you cannot be able to access the previous system, then you will disadvantage even the employees in such a scenario. So you need to take deliberate steps with the IT team to ensure that data is properly backed up and secured, so that the access is properly controlled.
Thank you very much, Jonathan Omolo. Now that you've mentioned the issue of backup, Lillian, can you tell us what are some of the challenges that you expect from a payroll? Because nothing is perfect in this world. What are some of the challenges that somebody can expect from even the most perfect payroll, so that they are able, as they move in processing the payroll data, they're able to, at the back of their mind, they're able to, so there are certain challenges that can crop up and mess up the payroll?
One of the challenges that they can face is you find some payrolls maybe are limited to, you might want to add something on the payroll that maybe is not able to handle it. The other challenge is on access rights. If you're not careful, it's highly possible to have people who are not authorized to have access to that, especially for those who put manual, like printing things that to do with payroll. If that is not stored correctly, it may lead to loss of data. And also in the normal monthly payroll checks, in case of changes in tax laws and employment laws, one needs to be very careful to ensure that is captured correctly, especially when there are changes. Always make sure before the payroll is tested, it's good to do simulations before and counter check that everything is correctly picking. The other issue will be for separations and joiners. There's a very high probability of mistakes happening. We find maybe leavers are not being removed from payroll, or maybe joiners, the calculation of deductions and such probably is not done correctly. And also for the leavers, it's also good to ensure that the system is correctly put, to ensure that whatever final dues and such are correctly also calculated. and also in the transmission of data from when you find that there are some payrolls that are directly linked to banks, and some you have to now manually do that. At the point of the simulation or transfer of such data, it's also good to put measures to ensure that whatever is in payroll is exactly what is transferred into people's banks. Because if you're not careful, also there might be a breach there. Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, she has mentioned the issue of payroll distribution. I normally see some payrolls, they have agreed, for example, a bank like Coop or NCBA, an organization sends a lump sum, then they distribute. What do you have to look for when you are looking at the concept of payroll distribution so that you are able to maximize on the payroll very well?
Okay, I would myself, I would prefer that someone has sufficient control of the payments that they are doing to the employees, so that there are proper checks and balances within the organization. Yeah, in the past there, and of course in the present, there has been those lists that you send like 50 million and you have a breakdown to the banks, and they do the remittance by themselves. There are agreements to that, and of course it also depends with the relationship with the bank. But there are also banking platforms where you are able to create an account for every employee, and the changes are only done by yourselves, of course, under authorization, proper controls, and you are able to make payments by yourself and monitor, because people are going to the online platforms where people are doing things digitally. So you can be able to manage that digitally, make payments by yourselves, and then fast track to the bank that I did this, and is it remitted or not remitted, and you can be able to even monitor which ones have gone through and which ones have not gone through. So this is current, but there's also one that is continuing with the listing, and it's important to ensure that you have the agreement with the bank, and the bank knows which list is false and which list is right, because someone can change the list and change the figures. The total is the same, but the list is altered or adulterated. So there has to be proper agreements and signing mandates, so that whatever list that you are issuing is the same as the one that was intended, and people receive their rightful pay. So, but as time goes by, I think we should all move into having more control about what you are paying. Whatever you are paying, you have control over it, so that you have and most banks are currently doing that within their systems, that they have now an additional salaries platform, where of course there's only one or two people that are able to access and are able to make payments and are able to monitor, and it's properly controlled. So it should be something that is really controlled with proper checks and balances.
Thank you. That is a very good and elaborate explanation on how you should manage distribution. Lilian, can you tell us, one of the challenges that an international payroll will have is currency management. How will you go about managing various currencies? And of course, the other challenge we have is culture. Currency is about culture dynamics. How do you go about looking at currencies vis-a-vis payroll?
I'd say when you're handling, okay, let me talk about culture. So when you're talking about global payroll, there are so many things that you need to take into consideration. One of them is when you're handling payroll, you need to consider timing differences, like where you're paying from and the person who is receiving. There's that waiting period before they receive. You also need to consider the mode of payment that they like to receive with. They are different in different countries. You'll find different methods of payments that are preferred. Some prefer bank transfers. There's those that prefer money, mobile money. There are those that still do checks. So that is another consideration you'd like to take into place. And also in different countries, you'll find if there are some benefits that are being provided. For some different countries, there's those benefits that are more important to them than they are to some other countries. So that is another consideration also. When it comes to also data privacy, there are those cultures where anything to do with their payrolls, no matter how small it is, they wouldn't want that to be out there. So that is another consideration to take into place. When it comes to currency exchange rates, you also need to consider the availability of the currency that you're using to pay, and also on your costs, considering now that currencies are generally very volatile. You'll need to, if maybe you are paying in dollar and there's that option of paying the global workforce in the country currency, that could also be a consideration. And when you're doing that, you will want to look at what are the impacts the company is going to get from paying by different currencies. And also you need a lot of collaboration with your bankers. You need to know, keep an eye on how the currencies are moving, and also find the availability. Like I'd say recently, when you're going to the banks to maybe purchase dollars, there will be a cutoff where the bank would say, this is the much we can sell to you in a day. So those are some of the considerations. Maybe you've already planned you're going to pay today, and then you go to the bank says, this is the much that we can sell to you today. So those are some of the challenges you need to look at beforehand when you're setting up a global payroll. Back to you, Richard.
I was one of the components of payroll management is self-service. How do you make sure that employee self-service is highly maximized so that, because a payroll is meant for efficiency. If you train people for self-service, how do you look at this self-service thing?
Okay, so when you're setting up self-service, one of the things you'd want to look at is, first of all, is employee training and continuous training. You need to ensure that whatever features you have. Sorry?
Okay, Lillian, you can continue. Then Jonathan can add, because you had already started.
You need to ensure whatever features are there, all the employees are aware of, and also have simulations where they can do the testing before the live goes up. And also from time to time, you could have collect their views on their user interface and how they find the platform is. Yeah, I think let me hand over to Jonathan to pick from there.
Jonathan, you can briefly speak about employee service. I don't know if Jonathan, are you there?
Okay, to add to what Lillian has said, there are just particular things that an employee needs from. Hello?
Yeah, we are
you
hearing
able to
you.
get me?
A little bit, but we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, yes, Jonathan, go on.
Are you able to get me?
Oh, Jonathan is breaking.
Hello?
Yeah, Jonathan, go on. Although you are breaking.
Okay, I'm saying is there are a few things that an employee would really require from the payroll as part of self-service. Okay, let me.
I don't know what has happened, Jonathan. Seems like your connection
Okay,
has.
there are a few things that an employee may require
Jonathan,
from
Jonathan, can you bring me
self-service.
net-
For example, the payslip.
your network seems to fluctuate and it is spoiling the communication. Maybe you can check as we, Lillian, when I want to bring, it's an organization which is new, or I want to change from an old payroll to a new payroll, yes, we are bringing in him later. What do I have to do? What are the processes, the sequences of bringing in a new payroll that has got international settings to it? Are there internationally accepted sequences?
It depends with an organization, like the sequence you want to follow, but I'd handle it. It's good to handle it like any other project. First of all is to look at what are the requirements. What do you require? You noting down the requirements and the geographical areas that you'll be covering. Then the next step will be now to shop for a vendor. And when you're shopping for a global vendor, things to keep in mind are looking at vendors that have experience in the market, look at pricing, also look at the various payment methods that they have, look at the data privacy policies that they have in place, and also look at the number of clients they serve and also the size of the clients that they serve. So when you're making the considerations, when you're onboarding them, among the first things that you'll want to discuss is on how the migration of data will happen, how it will, whether you'll have it run side by side first to see whether it's operating well, and how the data will be migrated, and also have timelines on how the project will be carried out. And when you're doing that, also it will be good to, as you're onboarding a global payroll service provider, at the same time, it will be good to have experts relating to taxes and employee mobility to be on board to help with migration, and talks about things like double taxation, tax policies, employment policies, that will need to be tailor-made into the system. And then now maybe do the data migration, do the simulations, and then after that, run maybe a simulation maybe for the first month to see how it performs. And after that, also before it goes live, training of users and also the employees maybe on how to use the system, self-service and such, and also on how they are going to do continuous support that will be available. That's some of the things we would like to consider.
Oh, wow. You've mentioned the issue of training, the issue of, is the cheapest necessarily the best somebody should use, or is it the most expensive, or is it the most complex? What do you look at?
Cheap is not necessarily cheap is not necessarily bad, and expensive is not necessarily the best. So the best thing will to do simulations and also check, counter check with the clients they have on board on their experience. Yeah, because I can say from experience, definitely expensive is not necessarily the best. Yeah.
Okay, so what is important is having well-trained people. You do some simulation, you do training, you ask other people who have used that system, what is the experience, so that you can make a decision, because a payroll can really mess you up. If there is a data entry problem, if it is incorrect calculations, if there are taxation errors, if we have omissions, or other things that are associated with challenges of a payroll system. I don't know if Jonathan is back. Jonathan, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I think I lost you. We are a bit far away in Kilifi. They say Pwani is not Kenya. Hello.
Oh, we can even hear wildlife. Is it wildlife? I'm a ocean life making. Yeah, you are adding something on self-service.
Yes. Yeah, I was just adding to the training that Lillian said, and I was emphasizing that you understand whatever the employee needs from the payroll side, because at the end of the day, whatever he needs is after. So like a follow-up onto whatever the pay he has received, you to get the breakdown of whatever he's received and to just check through. So that will be a pay slip. So the employee side of the service will be just to guide him on how to get the payslip, to understand the payslip, and if there are changes to understand the changes that have come and have been incorporated, and whatever else that is required, like a P9 for filing the returns, and how to use it, how to understand the same. So just whatever the requirements he needs and how he can be able to get to them. So by and large, that is whatever the employee should be guided through.
All right, thank you very much, Jonathan. Lillian, we have mentioned issues of compliance, local regulation. We have spoken about language and cultural differences. We have spoken issues with currency exchange and payment challenges. We have spoken about data and privacy issues. We have spoken issues of integration with local systems. We have spoken about social security. We have spoken about vendor management, and we have spoken about employee support. What other issue can we add on to us understanding global payroll management other than what we have just mentioned, so that our payroll systems are of high quality?
I may go first. ideally, for an international payroll system provider, there should be proper partnership from both the side of the company and the provider, so that the company understands whatever he needs, and then the provider can be able to be flexible enough to be able to take them into consideration and employ them at the beginning. And then when there are changes that go with them, like for example, if there are changes in the taxes and any other reliefs or whatever, you should understand the desired output, so that not everything goes, because you may have a good one today and tomorrow there are changes and you don't understand the output. So the payroll accountant or the expert should be able to understand the desired output, so that when the two partner, there is a way in which they'll arrive at the right desired outcome. And also in the same way, the partnership should be in such a way that is for posterity. I've engaged a provider who, when the agreement was to a certain level of number of employees, and the company envisaged that they'll never surpass that number of employees. So after like 10 years or so, the employees exceeded that, and now there were astronomical rates that were levied, and the company was opting out of the provider. So later you found that the provider went away with the data, and you when the auditors would come, they would not access anything. So even the employees would not access their P9s for filing returns for the following year. So the partnership should be in such a way that you properly agree for today, for tomorrow, and then even in the case of an exit, the exit is smooth. So or if there are changes, you ensure that the changes will be.
Fantastic. Partnerships are very key in managing a global payroll. Simon is wondering what is the essence of giving pay slips when after the payments have been done? Those are some of the challenges that is it a culture problem? Is it a technology problem? Lillian, you can go that. What is the best way of doing this?
Properly taken care of.
All right.
The proper way is, as provided by law, is to supply employees with their payslips, and also as you supply them with their payslips, also to keep your records for the future, like for KRA probably, or in case of any I say lawsuits. And also it depends with culture, and also, let me say, level of not education per se, but how informed one is. There are those people that payslip is not important to them as long as the money hits their account. But looking at current developments, there are so many cases in labor court. So either way, it will be good for you as an employee to have your payslips together and have the data, because in case you leave the organization and you have all that data in the company assets, you will not have that in case something comes up. So it's always good to have your copies of payslips and P9 and everything that relates to your employment and your employment contract. It's very important to keep that your copies, so that in case of anything, you also have you can supply data from your side, not necessarily relying on your employer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lillian. We want to keep it strictly 1 hour, and we have dealt and dived into understanding global payroll. What are the considerations? What do you need to look at? What are the challenges? What do you need to avoid? How to choose vendors, how to choose pricing. What are your parting shots, Jonathan? Next week, we shall have a demonstration on how to proficiently manage a payroll. So don't miss. For those people who do not love payroll, but you have to do it, next week, come and enjoy on how to do this payroll animal very well. Jonathan, your parting shots?
Both ways, as an employee, as an organization, the key resource is the human resource, and without the human resource, no machine will move. So it is important that we find a way to manage the human resource. We don't make it so big of a task, but we ensure that we make it as accurate, as correct as possible, and we ensure that our taxes are also properly captured, because like currently the government is looking for money, and any kind of loopholes that may be there will be heavily penalized. There was a circular that was sent on managing of the benefits, managing of the per diems, etc. So it is important that we get out of the manual systems, embrace technology, embrace faster ways of doing things, and ensure that our data is properly backed up, saved, and verifiable. So it's a move that I think everyone should be able to embrace as we get into the future. Richard?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Lilian, Nelima, what parting shots do you have so that you can be able to embrace technology in managing our payroll?
My parting shot is the world is at a very fast rate.
By the way, you don't want people to see you.
Sorry?
Lilian, you don't want people to see you when they meet you in the streets of Nairobi. Hey, that lady was the one who trained us on payroll, global payroll. Why are you hiding? You don't want to be seen. Anyway, that is beside the.
Okay. So my parting shot is that the world is evolving at a very fast rate. COVID came, and now we have remote working, contract working, people working across the world for the same organization. And global payroll is actually coming up very fast and keeping at tabs of what is happening around the world is quite helpful, and treating it with the importance it deserves, and also keeping in mind that maintaining a global payroll across maybe various tax jurisdictions is a very big challenge for many organizations. So when you are in future, or maybe right now, there's those that maybe have this is the elephant in the room in the organization. So I'd say, do not be afraid. Always involve experts. Do your research well. Put in mind the challenges that might come in hand, and also look for solutions beforehand. Because before you know it, I think globalization happening at a very fast rate. So this might be our new normal. Anyone handling payroll may need to handle payroll for different jurisdictions. So it's good to be prepared.
Thank you very much, Jonathan Omolo, a finance tax strategist. Thank you very much, Lilian Lima, an economist and a CPK holder of diverse industries. I can't be able to name every industry. She has traversed for the last 10 years. She's done a lot of various industries. Nelson, you have something to say?
That has been an amazing session, and I would not want to add anything, but just to encourage us that these tech talks, actually what I've heard today is deep. And currently I'm in a space where it is across the border. And what these guys are saying, what our panelists have said is actually true, and it's not easy managing global payroll or cross-border because we are used to one region. So if you add another country to it, then there are chaos. So how do we even choose a system that will actually help you in managing all this? Because again, you can't always keep up with everything. Yeah. So what do you do? As we say that in HR, we are good at outsourcing. So one of the ways that you practice outsourcing is also buying a system where the provider will be able to look into what has changed in various regions of your operation, and they help you update so that yours is just for quality purposes. It's just you to go check how is it matching what I expected. That will be only your role. And next week, I'm looking at, can we host these system providers and many more to come and give us a glimpse of how these systems work? Because again, I'm sure if they were to do payroll for Uganda and Kenya in the same system, there will be different interfaces. So how will that affect you as a person? And what do you actually want to learn more on this area? So let us have a practical session next week. And we're saying that we're preparing ourselves for bigger roles. For those of us who are only handling one region, you never know, tomorrow there'll be a role that requires global payroll understanding. And there you'll go with proper knowledge from the team that has already presented here. I don't think you'll be left out. So thank you very much. And I hope that we had a proper and a happy Madaraka Day. So as some of us go to work tomorrow, we wish you all the best. And thank you all and good night.
Thank you very much. We can now start writing what we have learned. And then as you say what you have learned, you can say goodbye in your language that you love. We can start with Toby Oladipopo. Say good night in your language and say what you have learned. You can write on your chat. Rosemary, what have you learned today? Write on your chat, say good night in your language or any other language that you like. Adrian Musimba, do the same. Agnes Omoyo, Amina Mohammed, do the same. Andrew Ochagwa, do the same. Bernard Wasire, Boniface M, Rafin Mukuna, Caroline Langat, Daniel Njogu, Dennis Kioko. Please say good night in your language and say what you have learned that is fresh today. Yes, watu wameuliza maswali, that is different. Thank you, Lilian Omolo, that is from Ivan. Good night, and Francis Shikuku, thanks to the presenters for this discussion. Looking forward for more sessions. Vendor management, very insightful.